Welcome Internet, Bread to Loaf here, and today we are changing the park neutral safety switch on the Buick. So you might be asking yourself, what exactly is a park neutral safety switch? Well, let me tell you. Essentially, it is the mechanical to electrical component that tells the ECM and computer what gear the transmission is in, or what gear that you want to select. So it's right down there. It is that black device with the silver screws in it and that rusty lever and that arm right there. That cable right there with the end attached to that arm, that is connected to the shift lever inside the cabin. So when you pull it up and down, it moves this lever back and forth, and it tells the transmission and computer what gear you want to be in. So the reason we're actually going to change it today is because I believe it is causing my door lock upon park or drive malfunction. So on these brand of Buicks, when you shift the car from park into drive, it locks the doors, and when you shift the car back into park, it will unlock the doors, and that's an automatic feature tied to the shifting of the car. It is very nice when it works, but as of late it has been malfunctioning and being very intermittent, and sometimes it doesn't work at all some days. That can be directly tied to the park neutral safety switch, I believe, so we are going to change that and see if it fixes the problem. So before we get into the fix, I'm going to show you the symptoms of what it is doing, and we'll go from there. Alright, so we are now inside the vehicle. Let's close the door because that has to be closed for it to work. And then we will go ahead and start the vehicle in park. Alright, so the engine is started and it is currently in park. So when I go to drive like that, the door locks should go into lock mode, and they are not. And then when I go back into park, they should unlock. And as you can see, it is not working whatsoever. And the reason I know it's not like the door jams not working or anything of that nature, the locking system only works when all the doors are closed and the engine is running. We had both of those cases and it still wasn't working. And the reason I know that the doors being open isn't the issue is because my interior lights would be turning on if one of the door jams was stuck open, where it was causing the computer to think that the doors were open and they're not, and lights not changing. And I know the engine's running, so most likely it is the park neutral safety switch, and that's why we're going to change it. Alright, let's first begin by removing the center lever, which is this guy right here. And we're not even going to remove this part right here. It's actually much harder to do that, so we're just going to remove the center lever, and then that'll just pop out and it will be free. And we're going to be using 3 extensions so I can get my impact gun in there. Alright, the nut is off. That's good. So we must remember that we're in park when we're doing this because we want to put it back the exact same way. So there we go. Lever is now out of the way. And now we can get to the 2 bolts holding it on. So that first one was 15 millimeter, and now we're switching to a 13 for the bolts. And there are just 2 bolts holding it on. Alright, there's one loose. And I definitely want to do this when the engine is cold, because the exhaust manifold heat shields and such are right next to this, and your hands are going to be getting in there. So I only ran the engine for about a minute and it's still pretty warm, so just watch out for that. Alright, and now for the second one. If you have a really long extension on your ratchet, this makes it incredibly easy. Alright, and there's the second bolt out. Alright, so now we're going to be removing the connector down here. It is this guy right here with the yellow, blue, green, orange, and black with the white stripe. So in order to do that, we're going to be popping out this piece right here and then sliding the connectors apart. Alright, now that the piece is out of the way, we can gently pry up on this connector piece. And there we go. Popped out just like that. And it looks nice and clean in there, which is good to see. We will hit that with a little bit of cleaner just to be sure later on, but that is that out of there. Alright, so I just got this free, and then I got the other harness free from the little bracket it snaps into. So there we go. That is now free, and then the last thing we gotta do is remove the purple wire going to the starter. Alright, so let's see if we can fish it out here. So when you pull it out, you'll see that there's like a little nub coming out of the transmission right there, and that is where it slots onto. So we should be able to pull it out until the purple wire connection, which is down there. That's fine. I'll set that aside for now, and we'll go down below. All right, with the car safely up on jack stand and jack, we are gonna go underneath and disconnect that wire from the starter. Good thing it is very easy to get to. It's just simply sitting right there. And it snakes up to where the park neutral safety switch body is. So that's what we're gonna take off right now. All right, we're taking that guy off right up there. And this is a 3/8 in my case. And it's good to see that the dielectric grease that we put on here a few months ago is still there and doing its job beautifully. Alright, with a small bit of difficulty, you can see we got it off and the ring terminal snapped, but at least we got the nut and the lock washer off just fine. So now we're going to head back up to the top and we're going to get that squared away. Alright, and here's our brand new part. This is a Standard Motor Products NS90 switch commutator interrupter. And this is what's in the box. So we have a brand new park neutral safety switch, the wiring harness, and the purple cable going down to the starter. And indeed, the new wiring harness has a plastic pushing connector and holder there, so we don't have to worry about that. That's why I cut the old one off. It's now ready for reinstallation. So one very important thing to note, if you are indeed changing your neutral safety switch on a late 80s Buick car, or other GM model car that has a safety switch like this, there is indeed a vacuum hose going into the loom here, and it connects up here at the loom near where it goes into the body of the switch. And I'll show you on the new one. So right here, poking out of the loom is where the vacuum hose comes out and ends, and then it goes into the body right there. And it's kind of hidden away underneath all this loom, and it's very easy to overlook if you don't know what you're looking for. If you have a vacuum line going into your neutral safety switch like this, make sure you find it and reconnect it, because that will ensure full operation. So that being said, let's finally disconnect the vacuum line from this, and then we'll pull it all the way out. All right, here is the old and the new compared together, and as always, you want to compare your old and new parts and make sure they fit functionally. So these look pretty much identical. Connectors look identical as well. So here is where the vacuum port goes in. When I installed this one last, I just simply removed the new hose that was coming from this one, and used the existing vacuum line down here and plugged that in. So we're going to do the same with that again. Otherwise, everything else looks the same. So we're going to go ahead and transplant the vacuum line first, make sure that's out of the way, and then we'll start getting into electricals and reconnecting our starter wire. All right, like I said, first thing we're going to do is pull this loom back slightly, and we're going to disconnect this vacuum line tubing right here. So there it is. Put that aside, and then now we can start installing this. All right, so now we're going to start the installation of the park neutral safety switch. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure we have our vacuum line connected into the loom. So we're going to go ahead and route that, and it's going to poke out down here, and then we're just going to pull it through like that. Make sure it's fitting in the loom correctly, and then we're going to get it all the way up through here to where it connects, just like that. And now you can see the vacuum line is connected. Now for a little extra protection, we will be using a zip tie right here. Alright, so we're going to take a zip tie, small one like this, route it underneath where the vacuum fitting and the hose meet, and we're going to make sure that's fully seated on there. Cinch it down. Alright, and that should be good to go. And as always, snip the ends of your zip ties. It makes it look a lot better. So there we go. Alright, and as always, I like to write the current date and mileage on any parts I can replace and get a marker on. Alright, so we got her roughly put in there. Now we're going to go ahead and connect up our electrical connector and get that sorted out. So we're going to put some dielectric grease in there and then snap them together, snap it to the bracket, and make sure everything's tight. Alright, with the connector in there, now we're going to take a little bit of our dielectric grease here, and we're going to slather up that connection and make sure it's nice and watertight, and it won't get any corrosion in there. And then if you have one of these little pieces, don't forget there's a little locking tab like that, just to make sure that the connections don't separate. All right, now we are just gonna sort out our purple connection, which goes from here and then down to the starter, down over there. So we're gonna run this like they had it ran. I'm gonna go between these two wires to keep it elevated and away from hot components. And then additionally, it was going through this holder right here, so we'll go ahead and redo that. All right, so back underneath the car at the starter motor, here is our purple connection. So it just needs to go up here back onto this post right there. So we're gonna slather on a little bit of dielectric grease like we did up top, and then we can go ahead and put our connection back on and get our lock washer and nut back on as well. All right, and that should be plenty tight. Now I just gotta make sure the loom is out of the way. It's not gonna move out of the way and get caught in anything or get hit by something like rocks, so that's why you have this protective loom here as well. But yeah, that looks pretty good. So we're done into here. All right, so the very last things we're gonna do, put the bolts in, make sure that everything works correctly before we button everything up and put zip ties and things of that nature. All right, so I cleaned up the bolts on a wire wheel grinder. Now we're gonna go ahead and get them threaded back in. So we're gonna go ahead and check the function of the shift lever before we get everything put down. So right now it is not in the parking position where this pin sticks out of the transmission. It is in a different gear right now, probably drive or second. So I'm gonna go ahead and shift cable to that position where it kind of lines up, and then I'll put that on there and we'll make sure it goes through all the gears. All right, looks like that was a little bit too far. All right, so we're in neutral right now on the gear shift lever inside, and that seems to fit pretty well on where it is right now. So we're gonna put the nut on there and we're gonna make sure all right, that feels pretty good. Every position seems to lock in on the gear shift indicator, and it feels pretty good from up there. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten everything down and we'll give her a test. All right, so I just gave her a test and everything seems to work just fine. And indeed, our automatic door locks are back and working 100%. So we know that the park neutral safety switch was the issue. That just goes to show you that the park neutral safety switch controls the automatic door locks as well as the position indicator for the transmission and the safety cutout for the starter if the vehicle is not in park or neutral. Hopefully that helped you fix your problem. We're gonna go ahead and button everything up, and then I'll bring you back for a quick test and proof of repair on the door locks. I'll show you how those work. All right, and to give you a little demonstration, I know I demonstrated before that it did not work, and now that we have it changed, let's go ahead and turn the car on. All right, doors are closed, engine is running, and we are in park. Let's shift it into reverse, neutral, or drive. And you can see just like that, the door locks actuated down and locking all the way across the vehicle. So it's in drive, we can move forward, you can put it in reverse, shifts nice and beautifully. And then once we go back into park, boom, unlocks. All right guys, well that is it. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. We have a bunch of content like this, how-to videos, cool stuff. We have a 6.6 liter 400 cubic inch V8 ambulance that's pretty awesome. We did an EFI kit on that a while back. Go check out those videos. We also have a 94 YJ that we do a lot of wrenching on. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.